I got a hold of two experts that live in the area that I going to be able to address some of the questions that you've called in on concerning this crisis that we're encompassing not only here in Dixie State University, but in southwestern Utah as well as the entire country. So I've invited two experts here to help us out understand what this is all about, some of the symptoms, and where you can get some help, or if you know someone that needs help, we're going to do that. So I want to introduce, first of all, Wayne Connors, who is the chairman of the NAMI NAMI Utah Southwest. Okay, and also I want to introduce you to McKenna Dutton. And she is the president of the NAMI on campus here at Dixie State University and also a full-time student here at Dixie State. So welcome to both of you. I appreciate you taking your time, and I know it's a big week for you because this is the Suicide Prevention Week, and Dixie State University's campus has all sorts of things going on throughout the week. It's been wonderful, and I know, Dutton, you've been behind a lot of that with NAMI on campus, haven't you?
Well, we've done some stuff. The Health and Counseling Center has really done a really great job this week of making Suicide Prevention Week really well known across campus with all the stuff that they've done. They've had daily activities, messages of hope. They've done the Hope Wall. They have a visual representation out on campus right now.
I saw that today.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. What I'd like to do, what we always do here on Tips, is we start off with the basics and then evolve into more specifics. So I'm going to really turn this over to you and both of you. This suicide situation is getting more grave every time I read some statistics and some numbers. And I don't know if it's because of the society we live in, the polarization, the stress levels, whatever, but you're the experts. When we think of suicide, why is there such a dramatic increase in the number of suicides in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Is it either one of you can start off? That's be fine.
Well, there's a myriad of reasons. It's the cost of getting an education. Then the next question is, can you get a job that'll pay for that education? You can end up with $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 in debt, and it's just very difficult to get a handle on stability. And that's why we have McKenna and NAMI on campus that'll help these folks realize who they are, where they are, and how they can go through this life and move on forward.
That's great. McKenna, do you have any statistical data that could help us out? At least let me and my listeners understand the magnitude of the suicide situation that we're looking at.
Yeah, so suicide is actually the second most common death among college students.
Wow.
Yeah, we did a survey last spring, and we had around 800 responses for Dixie, so in our school. And from that survey, 3.1% of people that responded indicated that they had attempted suicide within the last 12 months before taking the survey.
Oh, my gosh.
And 13.7%.
Next year.
This was done in the spring.
In the spring of this year.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and
I don't think people understand the gravity of this situation.
And what's considered as suicide or suicides that have been completed. When I started, we came to the college here. We had a QPR, and we'll talk about that later, but a QPR meeting, and I don't know if it was the president or who it was, but they said they have 5 known suicides of college students, and probably 9 or 10 believable.
Wow. And so what are you saying? What was your number, McKenna?
So it was 310 that attempted, and then
that people would acknowledge that they had suicidal thoughts. That's absolutely amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
5 years ago, there was a NAMI, I don't know if it was a NAMI on campus, but it was part of the health fair. They had 3 sets of beads. They had red, yellow, and purple or whatever. One is, had you ever thought about it? two had you ever attempted, well, they wouldn't, I forgot what the other one was, but anyhow, all the beads were gone
Wow.
within a real short time. People had actually thought about it, really didn't act on it, but thought about it. That is impressive in itself. It's just there. They're thinking about it. And we're in a society we don't ordinarily think that way, but there are those folks who don't have the resilience to pop back.
Yeah. And McKenna, as far as being you can identify this because you're a full-time student here. Is it, can we identify it? Is it the curriculum, the stress from coming on, because we're an open campus. So we have students enrolling from all different levels, different backgrounds, different academic levels, because different high schools they're coming from in that.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it's more prevalent amongst those students coming from students that are lower socioeconomically, and that stress is just compounded when they're interfacing with other fellow students their own age coming from different areas and seeing what their capabilities are compared to their own, so that puts undue stress? Is that one of the causes? Am I reading that right? Or
I mean, I would definitely say so. I mean, for me, I'm a full-time college student and I also work part-time. Like I work the minimum of 15 hours and I feel so much stress to, take on a full course load and get that done, but also, make ends meet work-wise, because you can't just go to school full-time unless you have a lot of money saved up. You have a lot of resources. So I could definitely see somebody coming in who doesn't have those resources and has to take out loans. So they have the stress of that. Upon graduation, they have to work full time. They try to go to school. They try to have a social life. They try to, be healthy mentally and physically. It can be a lot. Like you feel like you don't have a lot of options. Like you're just kind of like treading water at this point. You can barely keep your head above water. So I definitely think so. And also, like if you're coming in from out of state, or you're moving here, you don't know anybody, probably you're coming into a new situation, you don't know what resources you have available.
okay, so that's all on top of the regular academic requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of their personal history, their mental health history from the time they were a child, and growing through, and their environment that they've come through to a new environment that they have to adjust to.
Wow, I never thought about that, Wayne. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a whole new environment, whole new culture.
Mm-hmm.
And they're away from home, and there's no guardians, generally speaking. If they're commuters, they're still at home or with someone. But to be away, living in a dorm, on your own, to take care of yourself, and mom and dad aren't there, brothers and sisters aren't there, you're alone. You don't have that support group.
Yeah, there's no safety net there.
No.
In the next room, or across the street or whatever. I never thought about that, but that could be part of the problem. Is there any, based on both of you, you're both credentialed, okay, and we're going to talk about that in the second segment here. Specifically, we want to look at what activities you're involved with to help those individuals that are even considering that suicide as the ultimate end. But do you ever think that what would happen if we actually had courses, part of the orientation, as far as suicide is concerned, in making people aware of what aspects to look at, and also open up as to what areas they could go to get help, and actually a quasi safety net like Wayne was talking about? Is there something like that we have at Dixie State, or are we considering that? Or
Yeah, we actually do have that. They're starting the Hope Squad this
Okay.
semester. They're trying to really get back into that. That's it's a club, but also a class. So it's a 1 credit class. I believe they meet on Wednesdays at 3 or something.
that's great.
But they are a class devoted to mental health, but more specifically to suicide. So you can get different trainings like QPR training. You can become a peer mentor. So they're really trying to tackle this epidemic head on.
Yeah.
And educate people, because I think it's kind of a taboo. if you see somebody and you think they might be considering suicide, you don't want to talk to them because you don't want to, put that idea in their head, even though it's already in their head if that's something that they're
I
considering.
never thought about that either.
Luckily, too, the Hope Squads are in the high schools and junior highs,
Yes.
which is really the opening place where they can get this brought out to them, that this is a possibility in life, that if this happens, you can go to a counselor, you can go to a teacher, you can go somewhere and talk this out, because it's just something that, unless you talk about it, that's one of the cure, if there is such a cure for suicide, but get it out in the open. QPR, question, persuade, and refer. Question them. Are you thinking about doing something, harm yourself or harm somebody else? Persuade them. No, that's not the way to go. There is help. There are things we can do. There are people you can talk to. And you can refer them. Go over to the health and counseling center for the college students, or go to
The Access
the volunteer
Center.
clinic, or somebody, Southwest Behavioral, go to the hospital. There are places to go to.
Okay, that's great. Let me ask you a question. This is a personal question,
Okay.
McKenna. This is yours.
Okay.
You just mentioned about you're having to work 15 hours a week.
Yes.
You're also a full-time student at Dixie State.
Things that I
I'm just thinking of all the students here at Dixie.
That's one of the crazier ones, I think.
What are they saying because of isolation?
We are rural, even though we're 140,000 people here.
Right.
We're still considered rural, but you're 120 miles from Vegas, you're 300 miles from Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And getting out this information, NAMI on campus is right here. NAMI Utah Southwest. We're in St. George and Cedar. So you got Kanab, and you've got all these other outlying areas.
Yes.
And they need help, but unless you have volunteers, NAMI is all volunteer. Nobody gets paid except the state people and national people. To a class. Now, that's coming up. It should be this fall. It should get launched this fall. So that's
Okay.
new. And that'll get to the rural. We're rural. They're more rural. I mean, they're in country.
Gotcha.
Going up to Burrell or Enterprise, it's going to be hard to find a volunteer who wants to be trained and have a class every week for family to family or peer to peer. So this way, at least they can get it over the internet, because they have internet. Almost probably 99% of the people have internet of
Okay.
some kind. But they're finally answering to it. We've been hammering the national to get this done and upgrade all the information. Right now our books are by 2014, 2015. So next spring we're doing a whole new renovation and updating of all of our information. But the basic information is still the same, but
Right.
some of the other stuff changes.
Right.
So
So I was not aware, excuse my ignorance, that Utah was number 1 or number 2 in the entire country for suicides.
yes,
I thought I did my homework, but obviously I didn't. This is absolutely shocking.
it is.
And talk about you two sitting across from me, how valuable you are to a lot of individuals who don't know it at this time, but are counting on your expertise. Wow. Wow, it's my pleasure to have you both on here. This is great. You just hit me between the eyes. I'm getting emotional over here. So that's a shocker. So as a result of that, okay, that designation as number 1 or number 2 in suicides. As a result of that, is the federal government and the state governments doing anything to help us out as far as prevention's concerned, or have we seen it as status quo as is, and it's not going to go away?
No, but as of January 2019, I think it was, the state, through Medicaid, Utah State, the state of Utah, has Medicaid able to pay counselors, I forgot the designate, LSWs,
LCSWs.
LCSWs. And, you know, there's 4 or 5 designations of counselors and all that. This state allows about 3 or 4 of those counselors to be paid by Medicaid, which they ordinarily are not paid by Medicaid. And now the state is going to get all of them in, so that means there's more counselors. And that's been the biggest thing. There's almost no counselors, very few counselors. We'll get somebody in here, they're here for 6 months and they're gone, and the load on that counselor is unbelievable, how many people there are. We get people in, where can I go? Who can I talk to? Well, do you have insurance, or do you not have insurance? That's always a big item. If you don't have insurance, you're going to be down at the volunteer clinic, or maybe Southwest Behavioral will take some. It's just trying to find the resources, and the state has come through more so than most other states, and that is very forward thinking. And last year or the year before, the state legislature came through with, I think it was a $10,000 tax credit for those going into psychiatry, graduating in that field, which is a first. That's really, have to applaud them. Sometimes I don't like applauding them, but I have to applaud them for doing it. And that was out of the blue. I mean, that just came out, knowing that, and NAMI is part of that, and all the people that go up and talk to the legislature, knowing that we're really short on preventive counseling. And now the schools have, the local school just got $1 million, I think, Washington County, $1 million for counseling and that kind of effect for students for mental illnesses.
Got it. Wow, that's encouraging. That's encouraging. The other thing is that I'm concerned about is who's doing the diagnosis. In other words, you have all those statistics from earlier this year, Kenna. Who you turned that information over to who, and what have they done with it to contact those individuals, or was it anonymous? Was it a survey, or?
I'm not entirely sure the details of the survey because it was done through the Health and Counseling Center.
Okay.
I know they're a really great resource for people at Dixie because last year or 2 years ago, you had to pay $10 to go to see a certified therapist. And, them seeing these numbers, they've actually revamped the whole Health and Counseling Center. So now you can go and get therapy for free, and they'll see you as long as you want.
That's wonderful.
That's rare.
Yeah.
For free.
It's
rare on 2 parts. You really have it, and it's free.
Okay, where do they go again?
The Health and Counseling Center.
Right here on 100?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you just call. They have like LCSWs, they have CMHCs, they have they're all professionals. They're licensed. They're great over there.
That's great. Well, I tell you what, I told you time would fly. The first segment's all over with.
Oh my gosh.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying this and the information that we're receiving both from Wayne Connors and McKenna Dutton, because I've learned a lot. Who would ever thought? I knew some of you already knew, but I didn't realize we were number 1 or number 2 in suicides in the entire country here in Utah. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back after these messages. We're going to take a look at NAMI a little bit more in detail and some of those things that are available. We've already mentioned a couple, but we're going to repeat those because I think it's valuable, and this is really important information. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Bob Oxley here for tips, topics, issues, and positions. And for the first segment, we've had the opportunity to find out a little bit more about suicide here in Utah, and specifically Southwest Utah, as well as Dixie State University on our campus. Just to remind you, we've got Wayne Connors, who's the chairman for the NAMI Utah Southwest, and we also have McKenna Dutton, is the president of NAMI on campus and also a full-time student here at Dixie State University. So here we go in phase two, as they say here on Tipland. Now, I really we examined. I know someone that's anticipating or kind of solve the issues and not implement that.
Or you yourself are in a crisis and you are contemplating suicide, just go walk right in. They will take you. They will do whatever they can. They will fit you in, or I guess even yourself. There are different hotlines. There is this app called 211 Utah. Once you download it, you put in what county you're in, and you click.
Do me a favor. You repeat it one more time, just in case.
One.
Okay.
And then the app is.
Wayne, outside of campus, okay, we've got people obviously and this would be outside of the camp.
And flag that person, and it's in the benefit of the person that in case there's ever a police call on a family, domestic family problem, or he gets picked up on the street for driving or some minor misdemeanor, that that name is popped up that he has a mental illness, a mental issues. So all of a sudden, that person with the mental issues is treated differently than, throwing them around, slamming and pulling a gun.
Got it.
And same with a domestic issue. My son is acting up, and I'm really afraid for my life. The guys are not going to come in with guns. They're going to send in, and they have a special person that goes to this type of a mental illness hotline call, 911 call.
Okay.
So that part is 911.
Got it.
Other than the numbers that McKenna, those are national numbers, and those will serve purposes. And the other side is a lot of times this happens. 75% of all the mental illnesses happen between 16 and 24, 26 years old.
Wow.
It's a change in their lives. It's a maturing, and it's biological. We deal with the biological. That's the brain you were born with.
Okay.
And what happens, it's out of the normal accepted standards of activity. Everybody, there's no two people alike. Nobody's perfect. In this whole range of 0 to 100, sometimes they go off the charts. They go way up off the top and way off the bottom, and they don't know what to do about it.
Okay.
And I'd say the vast majority of times, for us, we're known for education that the parents or the grandparents call. What can I do? Who can I see? What can I go? And does he have a diagnosis? No, he was okay until a couple months ago he started getting weird. Well, we have them if there's not insurance. Again, back to insurance and getting it paid for. The doctor's volunteer clinic can diagnose, and they will, and they also have group meetings, and they have counselors. But it's a start to figure out what's going on with that person. And the CIT, Crisis Intervention Team of the police, of which we were part of their training session, but they're told, again, if you have this family problem, how to react to it. You don't, come in charging guns up and all that sort of stuff. And along with the EMTs. If the police call the EMTs to take this person to the emergency room, they do not want them seduced by injection.
Got it.
The emergency room people want to see the person as they are so they can diagnose him with what's going on with him right now.
That makes sense.
So those are the kind of things that we do, and otherwise we have the family classes. and how to just, that has diffused some problems.
That's very interesting.
It is, and it works. But if you get into these arguments, banging heads, that goes nowhere. It just escalates everything, and it can end up badly.
Wow. McKenna,
Yes.
president of NAMI on campus. What does NAMI on campus do for the students? I mean, what activities do you have? What's going on here? I mean, I know I have an idea what it is, but I'm not. But why don't you let the listeners know? I mean, really tell us about NAMI on campus, because I think it's a dynamic club.
Okay, well, we have a lot of events planned for this semester in a variety of different things. So, like, we have a monthly game day that we're actually having today, where we like to give students an opportunity to kind of de-stress from everything. And so we buy a bunch of food, we play games, we make it like a really social activity so that they have somewhere to go, that they know they're going to have fun, and that they can kind of chill out and make new friends. And kind of how I was talking earlier about how college can be isolating, this is a really great opportunity to go and meet people that are interested in the same things you are. We have a monthly service project at Switch Point where we go and cook dinner for the homeless. So that's
great.
a really great opportunity to give back to the community. This month, since it is Suicide Awareness Month, we have a couple different activities that we're doing. On the 27th, we are having QPR training, which, as Wayne talked about before, it's question, persuade, refer. So we're having the certified QPR trainers from the Health and Counseling Center.
Got it.
And
hold that one up. Go ahead.
And they're going to come, and you do get certified through it. It is a really great training. We did it last semester, and we had, I think, around 30 people come and get certified, and they give you a lot of great information about how to approach suicide with somebody who may be contemplating it. Then the next day, so the 28th, that's Saturday, there's the Out of the Darkness walk for St. George through the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Wow.
We are having a team, so if anyone wants to join, you can join our team. And so we're collecting donations to donate to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We've gathered about $300 so far, which is really good. And so that's a really great event to go to, whether or not you're in NAMI, because I think it really puts into perspective, you look around and, there's 1,000 people there, or there's more than that there, and you can just see how many lives have been touched by suicide.
Yeah, Dixie State University is hosting that, aren't they?
I'm not sure.
No,
they're not.
It's Out of the Darkness.
Okay.
Group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Special group here in southern Utah.
Okay, that's great, because that's what we're focusing on here. That's fantastic. So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No,
you're
you're
doing
fine.
so much. I mean, this is great.
And then other than that, we have a couple different presentations. We're having one on borderline personality disorder, where somebody in NAMI on campus who has borderline personality disorder is coming to kind of dispel some myths and talk about what their experience is like. Then we're having another presentation on self-care from a member of NAMI who's coming in, who has a mental illness and is kind of saying, like, hey, I know self-care can be really hard when you're going through all of this stuff. Here's some tips that I've found to help, manage.
This is I mean, you this is amazing, isn't it, Wayne? I mean, you guys are wonderful anyway, but how do you convince students to come out and say, I have this problem, I'm willing to share that with other members of NAMI on campus as well as outside
That's the
students?
biggest problem.
Is it?
To have them, it's stigma. You don't want to be known as having a mental problem, mental issue. And that's all we fight is stigma. If it wasn't stigma, we'd be talking about it all the time.
Yeah. But I mean, what McKenna's done, 2 members of the club are willing to come out and say, I'm going to talk about this. And that's going to be so helpful to, and we don't even know, members of that audience that's receiving this information.
Yeah, I think
How
just
remarkable.
the reputation that we have as a club of being really open and really honest about everything. We're fighting the stigma. We're advocating for mental health awareness. I have so many people that reach out to me every week and want to join and want to get involved. So I think just the space that we've created has helped people to be more open about
I
it.
would think so. I think this is amazing. Absolutely amazing. You should be proud of yourself and your
you.
club members. This is a great opportunity for them. And wow, I don't think they realize until they actually attend some of these events that you've scheduled. It's going to be fantastic for them.
Our
Wayne, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Our NAMI, local NAMI, has a website. It's namiut-southwest.org. Has a self-care booklet put out by National Mental Institute. It's about 28 pages. It's on our website under information, and that's just. I just handed that out to a lady who had called me, and she just went into raptures. I mean,
It's okay. I'm emotional too today. So yeah, you guys are really effective.
when you touch people.
Yeah, and that's being a real person, Wayne. Because I got choked up earlier today when you guys were giving me some of those statistics. I mean, we think we understand suicide, but when you start hitting us with numbers, and I think the biggest shock for me today was that Utah's number one in some categories and number two out of all 50 states suicides.
The
How ironic.
QPR class that she was talking about is question, persuade, and move over. They will come anywhere and talk to any group over 5 for free.
Wow.
And it's an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours
2
at
hours,
most. But we have had a lot of class in businesses. They take an hour out and train people in their business. And you go through Southwest Behavioral Health to get that class going.
Fantastic. You mentioned earlier about you had some local classes going on at the library. I think not on campus, but at the other library. And
No,
go ahead.
Not the library. We've moved.
Okay. Okay.
We have our family-to-family support group is still at the library on first and third Tuesdays.
Okay.
And our regular classes are family-to-family for the family members of the person who have mental issues is on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock to about 7:38. And at the same time, we have peer-to-peer, those in recovery of mental issues at the same place, because a lot of times some of the peer-to-peer people in recovery have lost their license for something they've done or whatever. Same place, different rooms, different sets of teachers, and those are on Wednesday nights at the USARA building, 113 East, 200 North, just a block down from the post office.
Okay.
And we have 2 rooms that are very modern. USARA has allowed us to use their office, and it's really quite nice. We're a little limited in space, not quite like the library where you had the big conference room where you could have 1,000 people, but maybe 14 is pushing it, 15 is pushing it, which is a nice size group to have, and talking groups and interactions. Do a lot of talk. We help. A lot of information comes out. I think the second or third class is just all information about all the different mental illnesses, and hardly anybody has one mental illness. It could be a mixture of 2 or 3 mixed in with alcohol and drugs, and
Yeah.
you have to sort those things out and kind of get them down to where it's manageable. So that's kind of where we are, and we do this. There's 12 classes for family to family and 8 classes for peer to peer.
Oh, that's great.
So busy.
I just picked up on something. I think you earlier that McKenna, you are certified in family to family.
Mm-hmm.
You want to elaborate a little bit? What do you talk about family to family? What goes on in one of your sessions?
So something I think worth noting about the NAMI classes is that the peer-to-peer and the family-to-family are taught by people that have been through it themselves. So like in the peer-to-peer class, you have somebody that does live with a mental illness teaching the class. And then for a family-to-family, you have somebody who has a loved one with a mental illness teaching the class. So it's not like a professional up there, just lecturing the whole time.
Yes.
You're really in an environment where everybody understands what everybody is going through. So it's a really safe place to, talk about the frustrations and stuff that you may not be able to talk about otherwise, like at home.
You're not alone.
Yeah. So as a teacher, we're just kind of given a lesson book that's very laid out. It's all research based. So we, in the class, we just kind of go over like different kinds of mental illness. We talk about what anxiety is, what OCD is, what depression is, what schizophrenia is, and we kind of go through different things. Like we talk about recovery, how recovery is not linear. We talk about different ways to cope so that they have an easier time at home. Like it's not therapy, but it's just a really great place to get information about how to deal with some of the things that, are not talked about very often.
Right, and the attendees get to talk amongst themselves. And Wayne, you just brought this up. You're not alone. In other words,
you're not alone.
you feel isolated, but what these meetings do is you look around and, gee whiz, I'm not alone. I mean,
And there is hope.
And there is hope.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
That's what the whole process does. It gives them hope to move on and look forward to moving on in their lives and with their loved one's life, too.
Right. And on the peer-to-peer side, now we're talking what you mentioned, McKenna, on the peer-to-peer, that's someone that has had a mental issue that's resolved that issue or is in the process of resolving it, and they open up and they talk to the audience there about that. And
The other side is
go
there's
ahead.
no cure.
All right.
This is biological. This is what they were born with. And there's no cure, but there is hope and there's recovery. And recovery is usually medication and counseling. These people that are living with these mental illnesses and family just have to adjust to a new life. Their life isn't going to be what they thought it was or maybe what it was.
Okay.
Because they have to admit, first of all, that they have a problem. They have to take the medications to put the balance back in the brain. It just takes I was trying to think of the term. We have expectations of your children. I had expectations for my daughter. I was very bright, went through a lot of stuff, and I thought she'd be a teacher or a counselor, and she's got bipolar 2 and ADHD. And it's just, her life changed.
Got it.
Our expectations changed. Her expectations have changed. Those are monsters. Those are really big things to get a grasp on and try to move forward with.
Okay.
That's what we do.
That's fantastic. Now we got locations and we know what you guys do. Anything else you want to add, just based on your own experience, observations, knowledge base concerning that you would like to see implemented here in Utah, especially on Dixie State University's campus or Southwestern Utah, because that's your area of expertise, your area of responsibility under NAMI.
Right.
So real quickly, just give me an idea. What would you like to see happen? McKenna, what would you like, what optimally, if everybody said, okay, the budget's open, go, what would you like to see happen, implemented here at Dixie State?
I think we have a lot of great resources here, but I think a lot of people just aren't aware of what we have. So I would like to have a more open conversation about it. Mental health is everywhere. Mental illness is everywhere. So I think we just need to be more open about it and, kind of break the stigma and get out of the fear of, I don't want to talk about it because talking about it makes it real.
Yeah. Make it more open. I think that's great. Wayne, what would you like to see happen? Well, I mean, I know you've been through this for years, so I'm sure there's a wish list a mile long. But
what McKenna just mentioned, mental health, it's like a diet. Everybody's got it. Everybody's on it. No matter what, everybody has mental health. Yeah. And where you are in that place is trying to make, for those who are not adjusting well, who are not resilient coming back in and taking care of things, it's the awareness of the public. I've been out here for 10 years, and there's still so many, I never heard of you.
That's why you're on this show.
Where are you guys?
I can verify that. That's why you're on this show. I mean, I talked to people, and they didn't have a clue. And you've been wonderful. I hate to tell you this. Guess what? We're out of time. Already.
I'll be back.
I know. You're welcome. Both of you are going to be welcome back. I just wanted to thank Wayne Connor and McKenna Dutton for taking time out of their busy schedules, because you have so many activities going on. This is Suicide Prevention Month, and this week is really a lot of activities here on campus at Dixie State University. Once again, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen,
you.
that concludes another program for tips, topics, issues, and positions. And you can take a look at our show is being broadcast on KDXI 100.3 FM at 3 o'clock on Fridays, and we're going to rebroadcast this show on Saturday at 5 p.m. Or you can take a look at the smiling faces of Wayne and McKenna anytime you want to. Just go to Facebook or Twitter or podcast, our affiliates, Podbean, even Alexis. You can just say Radio St. George Tips and Suicide Prevention, and it's going to pull this program up for you. You can go to radiostgeorge.com, and all those venues are going to be waiting for you, and you pick the one that you want to use. Please have a safe and enjoyable weekend. We'll be in touch with you next Friday for tips, topics, issues, and positions. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.